I'm Bruce Hammer, and welcome KW agents and associates. Thanks for joining us this morning. We are thrilled to have with us Mr. Robert Brand. Robert is a recognized expert on avoiding litigation through property condition disclosure. Mr. Brand is one of California's leading experts on property condition disclosure strategies that will, and this is important, help keep you out of court. In his former life, Mr. Brand was a licensed general contractor. He's personally inspected thousands of residential properties, and he now works as a litigation consultant, as well as being a contributing author to Realtor Magazine, and he's a speaker to thousands of realtors on the topic of effective disclosure techniques. Let's give a warm KW welcome to Mr. Robert Brand.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Bruce. We'll get going. I'm assuming you can hear me okay? All right. Okay, good. So hello, everybody, and not good afternoon, still good morning. Anyway, so I never go over time, so we'll be done by 12 noon, no later than that, not even a minute over. And if you have any questions at all on this topic, feel free to put them in the question room if we have one, or chat room or whatever. Or if you have a way of interrupting me or something, go right ahead. And I will be emailing to Bruce after we're done here some seminar notes. They're 4 or 5 pages long. And if you ever have a question about disclosure, probably better to email me about it if you just want my opinion, and I'll respond. I'll copy in Bruce so he knows what I'm talking about and what I'm advising. So anyway, let's get into the material. As I mentioned, seminar notes will be provided, so you'll get those, I think, shortly. I would like to give a shout out to Gov Hutchison. I think everybody knows him or has seen him. I'm sometimes paired up with him, which is a real privilege. I always tell him I'm his warm-up act, but if you haven't seen him before, he's just not on this topic, but anything regarding real estate, he's just superb. Big topic about, and it creeps up every year, but right about now, about 90% of lawsuits against residential agents, only in California, nowhere else, just here, are about disclosure issues concerning the physical condition of the property, where there's been a home inspection and the AVIDs have been done and all that, but the buyers move in and they find something that they think is wrong with the home from a physicality nature, so to speak, something, the roof leaks or whatever, or a neighbor tells them something that they didn't know about, hearsay. And there's just so many attorneys that are willing to jump on board in California. And so big topic. A lot of it can be prevented, probably not all of it, but a great deal of it, if we practice the correct disclosure strategies and so forth. So I do not charge real estate firms for what I do. I do not sell anything to the attendees now or later. So I'm very graciously sponsored by service providers, and they'll say hello, or their people will say hello in about 5 or 8 minutes or something like that. Fidelity National Home Warranty, Golden State Inspections, and Legal Services of America. So we'll get to them in just a few minutes. Let me just start out with some content on the visual inspection. And, our marching orders for doing an AVID right here, and it does say visual inspection. So a question that might arise is, should you disclose on the AVID only things that you can see? Because it does say visual. Well, even though it does say that, and it's never changed, the answer to the question, I believe, is no. So it really means, or it's interpreted in court to mean, any sensory perception. So let me give you 2 examples that you might run into. Let's say you're doing the AVID, either side of the deal, and you're upstairs, looking around from room to room, bathroom up there, whatever, cross the hall, and a couple of times you cross the hall doing your AVID, putting it together, filling it out. You notice that the floor, upstairs floor, seems to be just a little bit uneven. Most of the time you don't notice it, but a couple of times you think, is this a little bit off? It's kind of hard to tell. You're done upstairs, you walk down a few stairs, you look at the floor, and it looks flat. but you have noticed something. You haven't seen anything. You've had a sensory perception of just unevenness or whatever you might call it, imbalance. And so it would deserve a disclosure. Probably a lightweight one, like upstairs hallway floor appears to have some unevenness. You know, when the buyers move in, if they don't notice anything, well, no harm, no foul with that disclosure. But if they do, if they're kind of sensitive to that, you know, fixing an issue like that could be a big deal and could be very expensive. But you've made a disclosure. You've alerted them in the AVID that you've noticed some unevenness. So there's like no downside to mentioning something that's minor, because if the buyers don't care, then you know who cares about it. But if they do, you've covered yourself and your company and so forth. A strong odor in the home, let's say in the family room, like first floor, family room kitchen area, there's a really strong musty mildew odor, just really heavy. And it kind of smells like mold, you know, musty mildew. A lot of agents will write down something like strong mold odor in this area, or even musty, because it's considered like writing down mold. Well, that's not good, because we have too many words in it. Like, you don't want to say heavy or strong. Basically, and I'll mention this again, on the AVID, you just do not want to use adjectives at all. You can in advertising. There's not too much litigation in real estate advertising, flyers, virtual or paper. There's some, but not much. It's the disclosure arena that I talk about, the AVID, the TDS, where the litigation occurs, 99% of it anyway. And we just have to be careful of our wording. Like, we want to omit adjectives. So big, small, major, minor, fair, poor, long, short, or, you know, heavy, mildew. Don't want to say mildew. Don't want to say musty. They're too much like the word mold. So you got to be careful. Now you may think, well, what am I going to say? Well, it's actually easier when we don't use adjectives, because our disclosures are shorter. You can just say obvious odor noted in this area. So that's alerted the buyers. If they want to check it out, they can. If they don't want to, they don't have to. They might not even read it. Who knows? But you've done your job for yourself, for your company, and just careful on the words. I'll get into that a little bit more as we go along. And on the AVID, room by room, the only things that should be there, unless you can't find anything at all, which I'll mention, the comments need to be either a defect and or a red flag. That's all, no more than that. So for just by way of definition, like a broken window is obviously a defect. Let's say you're in the kitchen and the window's got a crack. That's the whole disclosure: cracked window, broken window. It's not a big crack, small crack. It's not from the rock, from the Frisbee. It's just cracked window. We want to keep it as simple as possible, and also the fewest words as possible, but we're still doing our job. We're still, whichever side we're on. We've observed something that's within our standard of care. We pointed it out, but we never want to figure it out. We just want to point it out. A red flag, like, let's say the ceiling stain was maybe a bit bigger. I need to get a picture of a bigger stain. But anyway, a lot of us would look at that and say there's a large water stain. Well, obviously you don't want to say large. And, stains can occur from a lot of things other than water. Ceiling stain, it could be a rodent problem. It could be the sellers have they store white wine up there and a bottle broke. I don't know. And from the standpoint of the AVID, I don't care to know. I may care on other levels for other things, but just to complete the form. So just stain noted, discoloration noted. Just don't get into the water, the rain, or whatever, or make guesses. It just really, the simpler the better. And when you do it simply and with fewer words, you're really doing a better job for anybody that reads that AVID, primarily the buyers, because you're not inserting an opinion that could be wrong, but you're still alerting them to, check it out if you want to take a look at it. There are a lot of challenges. I'll just mention two of them for sake of time. Let's say I'm in the living room and I'm doing my AVID thing. Maybe it's the last room I'm going to, and I just can't find anything to say. It looks wonderful, or it looks great. Well, I'm not going to you never want to compliment a room. You don't have to tear it apart, but you don't want to compliment it on the Avid. You're looking for defects and red flags. That's all. But I don't see anything. And I think, oh, there's a ceiling fan. Well, I want to kind of prove I was in the living room. So I jot down, whether it's a hard copy or on your iPhone or laptop or whatever, you jot down ceiling fan noted. Well, the problem with that is that the ceiling fan is not a defect or red flag. Ceiling fan is inventory. So what I've just introduced is a new category that's inventory. Well, if I jot down inventory in the living room, to be consistent, I need to jot it down or write it down in every room of the house. And I've got a big list of all the stuff they have in the house. I probably have to go to addendums. There's a solution to what to write down when you can't find anything that's worthy of note. I'll get to that in a second. Just one more challenge, call it the spider web challenge. That's where there's no ceiling fan to distract you and you can't find anything. Well, some agents really lower the bar to things that in no way affect the value or desirability of the property, and I look at lots of AVIDs during the year. And it's not unusual to see there's a spider web in the corner or something like that. So that's too minor, doesn't deserve a disclosure. And it kind of fills up the AVID. But, so what do you do? What do you write down when you're in the living room or whatever, and you have looked around and you just can't find anything, which, by the way, is a happy problem, if I might use that term, because if you've really looked around, it's nice to not find any problems or any red flags. Well, the expression that I personally like, nothing noted, nothing reported, something like that. I've been doing this for 30 some years, and I do it statewide, evenly dispersed. And that's really the most popular statement. And I've just never seen it backfire in court. The only question I ever get about it is when you're looking at a property, either side of the deal, and you can't find anything anywhere. So you're thinking, well, I'm going to have nothing noted, nothing. It looks like I never even showed up. And there is a solution to that, which I'll get to when there's repetitive nothing noted, because there really is nothing noted, but it kind of looks odd because it looks like you didn't maybe even visit it. We'll get to that in a minute. But as I mentioned, I am thankfully presented by sponsors. We have 3 of them today. And I believe that Yvonne Nelson is in the room. And Yvonne, usually I have you on the microphone, but you're there. So I'm going to assume that they all know you're there. And hello and all that. If you want to say anything, go ahead. But I think you probably have made your presence known. So I'll leave it at that, but interrupt me if you wanted to say something like over the microphone or whatever. So I'm going to go to the next sponsor, but do interrupt me if you want to do more than that. But Yvonne Nelson, known her for a great deal of time. I don't want to say 50 years because it would make all of us sound too old, but for a long time. And she's a great resource for home warranty and just a delightful person to work with. So thank you, Yvonne, for helping get me here. Craig is here with Golden State Inspections, great company, home inspection, termite, and I believe you're in the room. Craig, if you can unmute, you can say hello to everybody.
Good morning, everyone. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me. I am Craig Iden with Golden State Inspections. I also run Defender Termite and Pest Management. So we are a full service, one-stop shop. Besides doing the residential and commercial inspections and wood destroying organism inspections, we also can do things like mold testing, mold remediation, infrared testing, sewer camera, pool, spa, all those kind of inspections. We also have our in-house repair crew to do all the work as well. All of that sounds great, but it's really not that important when it comes to taking care of your clients. We need to know how to treat your clients and be able to do a lot of hand-holding over the process of walking them through a transaction, whether they're a buyer or a seller. And that's what we specialize in. We've been in business for 23 years. We're not the inspection company that constantly puts in their reports that, yeah, this is working, but it's past its useful life. To me, there's no reason to do that. If it's working fine, then I'm going to report that it's working fine. If there are conditions where something is worn, I'm going to put that in the report too, but I'm also going to tell the people that it is working. It may be something you want to budget for in the future, but right now it's working fine. We like to enlighten, not frighten. We like to disclose everything possible, but don't scare people away. We get asked quite often, would you buy this home? And the answer is always, I'd buy any home if the price is right. And I throw it back on you guys and say, that's your real estate agent's expertise. And that's something to discuss with them. I'm just here to give you all the information to better inform you of your either purchase, or if you're selling a property, maybe there's some things that they weren't aware of, and let's get those things tackled before you put it on the market, so you don't get another inspector in there blowing up the place and ruining the deal. So that's what we kind of specialize in. We look at things as a team effort. We're part of your team. Just like a mortgage broker, a warranty company, anybody that you refer or work with your clients has to be on their A game. If there's one screw up along that chain, it ultimately makes you guys look bad, and we don't want that. We want to make you guys shine, and you can do everything positive, and there's one negative aspect of the transaction, and that's what they're going to remember. And we understand that here, and that's what we work hard at dealing with any of the clients that we deal with, that we share with you. We don't just do an inspection and are gone. We're constantly there. We remind people they can always call us. We have clients that will call us years down the line and just ask simple questions that, hey, we're going to do this project to our house. What do you think? We're working with a contractor. He's suggesting this. Do you think that sounds correct or not? So that's one of the added services that we give our clients, that they can call us at any time, and we'll be there for them and be able to answer questions. So that's how we work. That's how we try to succeed and help you guys succeed. And I think I put all my information in the chat. So feel free to call me with any questions at all, and be happy to work with you and help your clients.
Thank you, Craig, very much. Great local resource. Okay. A unique service, very popular, and my third and last sponsor. And Virgil, if you could unmute and tell us what you do.
Thank you, Bob. Can you hear me okay?
I can't hear you fine. Yes.
Great. My name is Virgil Flores. I appreciate this opportunity. Thank you, Robert Brand, for all your years of service to our industry. My name is Virgil Flores. I'm the founder of Legal Services of America. We're located right here in Rancho Murrieta, California, not too far from you folks, right there in Folsom, I believe, or Elk Grove, pardon me. Our services are designed to prevent lawsuits against realtors. And we have found a way through our risk management system to stop 98% of any threat of lawsuit from ever reaching our client's E&O policy, or we pay their errors and omissions insurance deductible. Now, I want you to know that this is in no conflict with your own corporate counsel, because what we provide is a mediation service to your buyers and sellers after the close of escrow, and it goes on forever. For as long as that transaction exists, if any problem would come up, we're going to be there to manage it. And we have people that are trained in experts in dispute resolution and mediation. And it's all about, again, keeping the problem away from you so that you don't spend your valuable time and energy dealing with one of these unforeseen headaches. Realtors are the second most sued industry in California. And one of the reasons we believe that is that too many times that realtors are being asked to give legal advice. So one of the things that we've decided to do is to eliminate that possibility. When a buyer or seller has a legal question, before, during, or after the close of escrow, these are transactional legal questions that could impede, just delay, or destroy the sale. Now you're not going to put your real estate license at risk by giving legal advice. You're going to then bring in your team of attorneys that are experts in this matter. They're going to talk your client through to escrow, removing those legal roadblocks and helping people into escrow. Now then, of course, what happened from this is that our clients took the lead many of the thousands of realtors that we have across the state, they started using this as a value-added marketing advantage. So now we've got marketing templates and postcards and flyers that you can use to separate you from all the other realtors out there. The beautiful part about our service is it's only paid when the transaction closes, and it's paid for by the buyer or seller. It's just a one-time fee paid for through escrow when the deal closes. So I'll put my information in the chat room. Please feel free to call on me. I'd be happy to come and meet with you at any time. My name is Virgil Flores, Legal Services of America. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Virgil. Great service. Can't say enough about it. Okay, back to my topic. Pristine home. You're doing your AVID and you're thinking, well, the reality is you can't find anything to say about it. You're thinking, well, it looks like I never even showed up, because I could have filled this out anywhere, nothing noted everywhere. Well, here's a solution to it. Not everywhere in California, but just almost everywhere. I mean, I think it's different, maybe like around Yosemite and maybe, Big Bear, Lake Arrowhead, or, mountain resort type places. But most residential areas, at least a high percentage of the home, have on the left what we might call stucco siding. If you ever want to refer to that, drop the word stucco, but exterior siding like that. And on the right, concrete, cement, driveways, walkways, poolside, patio, and all that. It's just about impossible to find these surfaces if you look at the whole property that are crack free. Now, if you look at the left picture, the exterior siding, you see they look like kind of hairline or minor cracks. You never want to use hairline or minor because those are adjectives. And again, no adjectives. But you'll see them here and there, and they're not necessarily problematic. They're kind of normal. You don't want to say normal either, write it down. But you see them everywhere. And a disclosure like this, I think, works very well. It's not essential, but when you really literally can't find anything else to say, and you just want to help substantiate that you really were there, if that's ever questioned. Some cracks noted at exterior siding and backyard patio or driveway, or wherever you see them. Nobody's going to do anything about it. Nobody has to do anything about it. It's a normal thing. You can't really find a property that's crack free, so to speak. And if you're wondering like where to write it down, well, there's other places on the TDS you can write it down. But my little high-tech arrow here on the left, a section that is available that is rarely utilized, but it's kind of like a nice catch-all at the end of it. And that's other observed or known conditions not specified above. That's always a good place to write something down if you're really not sure where else to write it down. So that's kind of, I think, a solution to that issue of the repetitive nothing noted. I do get asked about this a lot, and that is when there is let's say you're involved with a property listing or you got the buyer, and it is literally next door to like a Walmart or a big supermarket or a Target. I mean, it's right there, right next door. They share a property line. So you can't miss it. It's obvious. Some agents aren't sure whether or not they should disclose something that's overly obvious. To think maybe it's an insult to the buyer's intelligence or something like that. So let me talk about that. So like this property here in our close to us, our side to the right, a house right across the street from a school. Now the buyers obviously know there's a school there, but they are going to be subjected to, maybe that's a negative word, but they're going to be the recipient of, let's see, gridlock in the drop-off time and pickup time, even maybe their driveway blocked or whatever, or people lined up. They're going to hear bells ringing for class changes and the football games or cheerleader practice or whatever goes on at schools. Now you think, well, that's obvious, but literally some buyers might say, I never thought that would be an issue or whatever, and it really bothers me. So here's a case where there's a property and it's overtly obvious that it's across the street from a school. Now I'll give you another example, and I'll give you an idea on how to disclose these things. Now, this is in Los Angeles. Interstate 10 is a busy part of LA. And you can't get much closer to a freeway. Feel the on-ramp is right there to the left. It's really hard to get closer. So now you think, well, I want to disclose this to the buyers, but what am I going to say, that there's noise? Well, maybe they say the noise doesn't bother them. It's like the vibration of the traffic, and you write that down maybe. And well, it's not the noise or vibration. It's the gas fumes. I mean, it could be anything. Well, you'll never. Here's the issue: you can never make a list long enough to mention every single possible potential problem, because all the buyers have to do, especially with the help of an attorney, is find something that's not on the list that you didn't mention. So there's just another way of doing it. This is near where I live. And so I took this picture recently. It's a big shopping center. They've got like a Target and a big it's just like a mile long or half mile long. In fact, I measured it because I walk behind it sometimes. It's a half mile long. And so anyway, very nice houses behind it, great view from there. And there have been some litigation there with homes like the ones you see there, because the buyers, they get smitten by the view or whatever. And there are stores down there. Well, that's going to be convenient for a shopping center. But the delivery trucks, the big 18-wheeler trucks and stuff, and refrigeration trucks, they are actually in operation 24 hours a day. They never stop, maybe more in the daytime, but they're all night long. And the refrigeration trucks just idle, but they're loud. And there's people talking and back and forth and all that. And so it's a factor of life there. They think, well, I can't list all of the things that may bother them because the list would never be long enough. But we do want to disclose the obvious. Let me see if I have here, let me go back to this picture. I'm sorry. A disclosure would be this property is adjacent to a shopping center. So by inference, at the very least, you're telling them whatever happens at a shopping center, it's right next to your house. You don't want to make the list. You just let them know what is there. There is a freeway near this property. There is a golf course near this property. That's a whole nother list of issues of balls hitting windows and all that sort of thing. And the noise from the gardeners at the golf course. This property is adjacent to a golf course. This property and near is a kind of nebulous term. It doesn't have to be right there. It can be half a block away. And sometimes if it's like a school, the buyers who are from out of town don't even know the school is there because it's a half a block away, but they are still subjected to the things that are part of your life when you live near that. They're still going to have the traffic gridlock and maybe hear things. Just letting them know it's there. This property is near or adjacent to, or a word like that, depending on the situation, a shopping center, means that whatever you're going to experience by living close to a shopping center or freeway, I want to let you know you're going to be experiencing it. So yes, disclose the obvious. And let me just kind of elaborate. Disclose what's there, not the details of what may bother the buyers about what is there. There's a free, I'm sorry, I forgot I had this coming up. I reorganized it. There's a freeway near the house. A school is close to this property. Don't make a list of specifics. And again, for this one, a shopping center is located behind this property. Takes care of it. And it's quicker, it's easier to do, and it's a better way to go. It's more effective and reduces the potential litigation. Okay, here's a really, really easy way. It's almost overly easy, but it works like a charm, of taking a rough draft disclosure. You got the AVID and either side of the deal, and you're wondering, well, how am I going to disclose this? You're not sure. So here's how to take the rough draft, which you're not putting on the AVID, you're jotting it down on your phone or piece of paper or whatever, and very quickly turn it into a final disclosure. It's free. You don't have to download anything or whatever. So let's say you got the buyer, you are doing the AVID, the sellers aren't home, but they're on their way home and you kind of want to finish up and get out of there before they return. You've done the upstairs, you've done all the downstairs. Your last room is the kitchen. And on the wall, say to the left of the refrigerator, for example, you see this, you're thinking, well, this could be a bad thing. looks like it's maybe mold, and maybe there may be nothing or almost nothing, but this could be the red flag indicating a major mold infestation. And man, when that's figured out, the buyers are going to have to move out of the house, and then they got the guys with the moon suits that come in and tear the place apart, and it could be expensive, and very easily lawsuit or lawsuits can develop from this. But the issue here is, what are you going to disclose? And you're just not sure. But you want to get out of there, and you don't want to. You kind of want to get out of there before the sellers come home, whatever. Here's a really simple way to do it. It just takes a few seconds. So set the AVID aside. And if you're the old-fashioned way with a pen and paper, get like a little notepad or a Post-it note or on your phone, whatever, but not on the AVID, and write down whatever comes to mind. For me, I would like to disclose, although I haven't on the AVID, there's 2 small black mold stains noted. Now, that's not the final disclosure, but it's not on the AVID. Now I'm done. Now I leave. Later on in the day, I'm in my home office, my car office, whatever office you have. I take that out, and I just proceed to remove every word I can such that it still makes sense in the English language. I don't need to have 2. I don't want to say small. I never use colors of any kind. There's no way I am ever going to write down the word mold. So all I have left over is stains noted. And you can, at the wall, stains noted to the left of the refrigerator, whatever. Ideal disclosure. And you've gotten rid of the trigger words that can cause problems for you and your company, but you've provided a disclosure to who's ever reading the AVID, primarily you're thinking of the buyer, but you haven't set yourself up for a fall by using the colors, the mold or the mildew, and all those words that are very litigious. But you have done your job. You've noticed some stains. What are they? How do you know? That's out of your standard of care. You don't have X-ray vision. You can't predict the future, but you've made a disclosure. And it's just a really simple way. And then you get out the AVID, and then you write that down after you've done that little exercise, which took, 45 seconds. Just an easy way to take care of that. I'm going to quickly check the chat room and just see if there's any questions here. I don't see any. Okay. All right. So here's some good advice. As we heard from Craig at Golden State Inspections, this is good advice for any home inspector and any dealings you have with them. Never complete the AVID during the home inspection. It is actually from a liability standpoint, although it's commonly done for convenience sake, but it's not a good idea. And the convenience factor will not even be thought of when there's litigation that can stem from this. The primary reason why is home inspectors have a different standard of care than we do. It's actually a lot more detailed. They actually get sued more than real estate agents do. It varies from company to real estate, from real estate company to real estate. Some companies like their agents to look under sinks and some don't. And there's different, protocol depending on what part of the state and all of that. But let's say after the seminar today, this afternoon, I'm representing the buyers and we got a deal this afternoon. Great. And I want to get in there. My buyer's going to have a home inspection done, and that's good to recommend. I'll try to touch on that in a minute, even though it's kind of a given, but it's good to recommend it. A professional home inspector. Don't list any names, but just, whatever, you can give them a list of people or something. But nonetheless, I can get out there. Sometimes you can't, but let's say I can get out there. Today is Wednesday, so I can get out there Friday. The home inspector is going to be out there Monday, let's say. Okay, so I want to get out there. I don't want to say, well, I'm going to be there Monday, by the way. I will be there because I want to be there with my buyers, and it's really good if your buyers can attend. I want to have my AVID done and dated earlier than the date of the home inspection report. And there's several reasons why that's a really good idea. So let's say I can get out there in a couple of days. I'm by myself. I'm in the, let's say, master bedroom here. In this picture, I don't see anything to disclose. I'm not going to move the bed or anything to look under it. In this flower painting, there's no way I'm going to even peek behind it. I'm not going to look behind it. You know, it's limited. It's a limited visual inspection that the real estate agents do. So from this picture right now, I don't really see anything to disclose. Okay. Let's say though, I think, well, the home inspector is going to be here Tuesday, 2 birds, 1 stone. All my buyers are going to be there. Great. I'll be there and I'll do my AVID then just out of convenience because the home inspector is going to be there. But that's the problem. You haven't completed your AVID and you're observing here and there, even though you're not following them around, things that the home inspector is doing and seeing that are within the home inspector's standard of care, but they're not within your standard of care. For example, let's say behind that flower painting is something like this. Well, you have no responsibility because when you're there by yourself, you don't move paintings off the wall. You don't move anything around. So you have no disclosure. But if the home inspector's there doing his thing, it's very easy. He'll call you over to look at it, call the buyers over to look at it. You might be walking by or accused of walking by. And now you've seen this terrible looking crack and stain and all that. And you have a whole other level and a much more litigious level of disclosure that you're exposed to needlessly. So to kind of sum this up, it's a big topic. My advice is to, if there's any way humanly possible, complete the AVID prior to the home inspection. So the date on your AVID is always an earlier date than the date on the home inspection report, which is absolute proof that you got there first. The home inspector was not there and you stayed within your standard of care and you're not exposed to the more rigorous and more expansive standard of care of the home inspector. By the way, let me just insert this if I don't get to it. If you are in the habit of representing the buyers that they get a home inspection, a lot of agents will say, I recommend you get like a licensed home inspector. And you probably know this, but I'll just throw it in here and get back to the point here. There are no licensed home inspectors in California. The state of California does not license home inspectors. They can get certifications. Those are private company certifications, and they're great, and they're difficult to get, many of them. And it's good to have those credentials. I believe, last count, 36 states license home inspectors. I thought we were going to be the first one on the block to do that, and it's not even on the horizon. So it's better to say, I recommend you obtain the services of a qualified home inspector, that kind of thing, that kind of terminology, but just don't use the word license. But anyway, back to this. Complete the AVID prior to the home inspection, earlier date on the AVID than on the home inspection report. Excuse me. Never delay the visual inspection because repairs are pending, like the sellers, we're going to take care of a few of these things, and the listing agent says, we really don't want you as a buyer's agent to get in there and do your AVID because they need to fix things. Just if there's any way, just get there as soon as you can. And then days later, when the home inspection is going to take place, if your buyers are local and there is any way possible that they can attend, it's a really good thing for them to attend. You've already done your AVID, so you sit it out somewhere, but they can follow the home inspector around, do whatever they want. You're not going to be distracted by that because you've already done your job. You've got your AVID done. It was done a few days ago. It's dated a few days ago, and it really helps control your liability. But it's good if buyers can be there. It's really limits because they can ask questions, and it reduces the chance of litigation as well. All right, where are we at here? About 20 minutes to go. Okay. The PowerPoint you're looking at has about 4 hours of material, so I may skip around here a bit. This is kind of a given, but let me just mention it because it does come up. The pack rat room. You know, when you're doing your visual inspection of a property that's not pristine and well organized, you can kind of get used to rooms looking like this. Nothing wrong with it, but they just have, the sellers have a lot of stuff in it. And, if you can't get in the room, it's locked, or you open the door and it's just an app, it's 10 feet of junk, you want to disclaim the room. But when a seller has just a lot of stuff, you can go into a room like this and you think, well, can't see everything, but I'll look around, nothing noted. Well, it's really not fair to you to be responsible for what this room is going to look like once everything's out of it. And it might look like this when all the stuff is taken out and the carpet's taken out. You can't see this. This would be a disclosure issue, but it's just not fair to you. There's just too many things in the way. So, we can let certain things slide, just normal furnishings. But when it gets to this point, you really want to disclaim it. It doesn't have to be 10 foot high, floor to ceiling, and you can't even get in for you to disclaim the room. And disclaiming something like extensive personal belongings prevented a visual inspection. And that way, you are really not responsible for that room. Now, theoretically, somebody will call you back to look at it once it's been cleaned up, but that hardly ever happens. It just almost doesn't happen at all. So the standing disclaimer that can be pulled up at any time in the future when the buyers discover some problem in a particular room is that there was too much in the way for you to look at it. You're not responsible for the condition of that room or any red flags. Now, there's a whole story here. I'll skip the story. I'll just mention a couple of things, but same room on the right when the buyers moved in, on the left when the buyer's agent was there to do the visual inspection. And it turns out that the floor, this is I think an Irvine, expensive home, and the family room floor was a bit uneven, and that led to some discovery where it had to be just not dynamited up, but it was removed, and it was very, very expensive. The buyer's agent wasn't even named in the lawsuit, and that's because I've made it really big here to see, but for the family room had something like this. Because let me just back up. When he was there, it looked like it did on the left, and he was sensitive enough to it, think, I can work my way through this, but this is not fair to me to be responsible. I can't walk through the room because there's stuff in the way. I can't get a feel for the floor, whatever. Fortunately, had a disclaimer like this, not even named in the lawsuit at all. Now, that sometimes that doesn't happen. You get named and dropped out, not even named. And I mean, the thing was, I don't know, 80 grand to fix or something like that. And by the way, something that's easy to forget, this principle of disclaiming things when it's appropriate to do so, is the home's exterior. We look at the things inside the house and, well, this room's too crowded or it's locked or whatever. But a lot of properties, they have vegetation in the way, and it's hiding something like this. Now that's not necessarily disaster, that stucco cracking, but anyway, you can't see certain things. And then, so I have this in the notes. For the outside, we're conscious of the rooms that are kind of messy, but not so much the outside. Now, if it's acreage and there's a log cabin 2 acres back, you're not responsible for that. I'm talking about a traditional home, a lot and that sort of thing. Extensive vegetation or debris or whatever prevented a visual inspection of portions of the house exterior. That's a big deal. Again, we pay attention to the inside, which is good, but sometimes it's the outside that has problems that can be expensive. Now, this is just a joke. If you pull up to here, don't even try. Just turn around, say, clean it up, and I'll come back. Just give up on that one. Okay, let me skim through here and just let's see. Yeah, let me do this here, and then you can always have me back for the rest of it. So, okay, just no adjectives. I mentioned it. Keep it short and simple. Let me just give you an example of the words that we don't want to use: small, large, fair, poor, colors, numbers. The word water, like water stain or mold, we don't want to use that at all. So let me give you an example. Like a lot of agents would call these, or if it's on, especially if it's on a patio, like several settling cracks noted. And well, settling is a geotechnical term and all that. Or I've got a story on that. But settling cracks, we want to drop the settling. Surface cracks, hairline cracks, cosmetic cracks, expansive cracks. You know what they are? They're just cracks. That's all. They're just cracks. Don't put anything ahead of them, because what you put ahead of it, in front of it, can be argued, and it'll be argued for hours by expert witness architects and geotechnical engineers and people they bring in. And it's a tough battle to win. So let's take a classic, not well-worded disclosure. 3 large settling cracks noted near mold stain above fireplace, a bit of an exaggeration. We get rid of the 3, we get rid of the large, get rid of the settling, certainly get rid of the mold. And what we have is cracks noted near stain above fireplace, ideal disclosure. And the thing that's good about an ideal disclosure is you're not making it longer. Oh, I've got to keep adding. You're taking words out of it and just getting down to the bare bones. So a buyer's reading this and they're wondering, how big are the cracks or what's the stain? Well, that can be, they can ask to have that investigated. They probably won't, but you've disclosed just what you see without making any assumptions that are easy to make without us even really thinking about it. Let me talk here briefly about building permits and building permit verification. And if I say anything that's in conflict with company policy, go with me. No, I'm kidding. Don't go with me. Go with company policy. But sometimes you're involved in the property. Now, let's say it's more on the buyer's side where you can kind of tell, maybe you're told that that's better. You're informed there's been a room addition or something like this, makes it kind of easy to see. This one's really hard to miss. If you see something like that, you probably know it was added on, but this is probably more the typical thing. So, and then the whole ADU phenomenon, just over the last 20 years, I mean, they're much less expensive. They're much more, they're nicer. They're easy to put in a property, or relatively easy, and all that. And that's a whole nother liability issue and so forth that I cover another time. But it doesn't have to be a tiny house or something. It could be like a man cave or whatever that thing is. So if you look at the first page of the AVID, when we're done, just get on an AVID and look at the first page. On the first page, it says California law does not require the agent to inspect the following. And one of the items is public records or permits. Also on the first page of the AVID, it says, by statute, agent is not obligated to pull permits or inspect public records. So twice on the AVID, page 1, says we are told that building permit verification is really outside of our standard of care. This really gets tricky when you get into rural areas and so forth, but it's the policy really should be unchanged, and that is that verification of building permits, even by general contractors who do renovations for a living, if they're in a large city where there's all kinds of different municipalities, it really gets complicated because, some areas are really like, maybe they're where you are in the city of Sacramento, and then you've got other places that are really a separate city unto themselves, and it can get very confusing. And how old is a house, and did they do permits back then it could be a very complicated topic. So wording that I like, but make sure it's okay there. Buyers are advised to check with local municipality. You're not mentioning which one it is, just that their job, find what the local municipality is regarding building permit information. That's maybe more than needed because of what's already there in the AVID. But I like this when you can tell that there have been additions, and it's an older property and it's been added on to here and there. And it's just way outside of our standard of care to just check all this out. It's impossible sometimes, almost impossible others. Buyers are advised to check with local municipality, and that's good, rather than city of, regarding building permit information. So just a suggestion for that. And let me just see. This is a good one. I like to mention this. Should you disclose wear and tear items? There are very few things about disclosure that are controversial. This borders on it because companies do differ usually. And I've been traveling California, equally dispersed again for 3 decades, and almost all companies do the same thing because they listen to Gov Hutchison and get information from Carr, and they, on the same page. This is a little bit of difference on this. I'll give you my thought. Make sure you go with company policy there. Should disclose wear and tear items. And some examples, these are really the minor things like scuff marks and stuff. We usually just collectively do that only when the home is in such great condition. We don't know what to say, so we're trying to find something to say. And when we disclose the scuff mark, we've lowered the bar down to minutia, and that sets a standard for all of the AVID. If we're getting that low down, so to speak, about mentioning the dirty carpet doesn't affect value or desirability, we really need to keep that going for the whole AVID in the whole house. And then it gets just filled up with way too much information. And so usually there's no disclosure for these observations, because once you start disclosing them, you have to really disclose all of them. You can't be too selective. And there's way too much information in the AVID. Now, this is really going to date me a lot here, but there's a game, I'm not even sure it's still around. It's called Where's Waldo? And he's got a red striped shirt on or something. Really hard to find him. If I do this, you can see him, easily. So I like, without doing that little arrow thing, I like Waldo to represent the meaningful disclosure that should be there and easy to see, like that last picture. But the other beachgoers are the trivial things that nobody cares about, don't affect value or desirability, and they're added into the AVID. And so conscientious buyers that really want to know, what are the problems, they just can't find the Waldo. They can't find the meaningful disclosure. So got to be careful about that. And let me see. Okay, I'll mention the taking photos thing. That's a slightly controversial, but not terribly. I'll just tell you what to be careful of if you do take pictures. Easy to do now. We all have the, phones with the cameras and all, so we always have a phone. So it makes it easy. A long time ago, it was the regular camera and then the disposable camera and all that sort of thing. And this is a popular platform for inserting photos into it. It's not a matter of can you, it's a matter of whether or not you should. So keep in mind, it does say it's a visual inspection. There's nothing said, in the personal appearance events I do, which are starting to happen a bit more now, than only by Zoom. Zoom, I think, gets a bigger audience, but nonetheless, more personal, in-person things happening now. And agents who see me before, they'll bring things to the meeting, to the seminar. I've had them bring a drone, and I'll say, well, hey, Bob, I use this in my, I'm doing my AVID. I said, why? It can fly up to the top of the roof, and I can look at the camera, and I can see the what's going on. Said, hey, if you can't see it from the driveway, you're certainly not going to climb up on it. You have no responsibility, but now you do. Another thing, there's lots, I'll just mention one other. It's some kind of a high-tech thing inside of a house, you put up against a wall, has a little scope and a readout. It tells you how much moisture there is in there, and if there's termites, which are way outside your standard of care anyway. And it's a visual inspection. It's almost like a hands behind your back walk through the property, and that's how it's designed. We want to keep it simple like that. Competent and diligent visual inspection. If you do take pictures and you end up in court, I can guarantee you they will accuse you of not taking enough of them. They'll say, you're very clever. You took a picture of this and this and that. You don't want anybody to see what we're suing you over. And that's not good. The only exception is, and I don't mean this one as a joke, but if you're not really into taking pictures, which I think is a good idea not to, but the garage here is the only room that's like this, and it was, out of control, so to speak. Documenting that, and making, contact me to return once it's cleaned up if you want to or whatever. But that's the only exception. So generally speaking, I really like the idea of keeping it a visual inspection and not going beyond that. Let me just cover one more thing. We're in the pack rat room. Oh, let me back up here. This is I get questions about this, and I'll close with this one here. Sweet smelling house. I get asked questions about this. Agent will say at a seminar, let's say I'm representing the buyers who went to the house and they had like 18 plug-in air fresheners. It's like smell like a perfume factory in there. And I said, what's the problem? Or what do you think may be the problem? They got to be hiding something. Nobody does that. So I'll cover that here. They got plug-in air fresheners. Maybe it's a day when normally the windows would be shut because of the temperature outside, but they're open and they've got the fans blowing and fans, portable fans, ceiling fans. They're baking apple pies in the oven. Yeah, just a very high sensory type property with just, all kinds of smells. That's like, you're in a big garden or something. Well, here you may wonder, you got a secret hatch, secret doorway. If we are required to figure out how many air fresheners are normal or okay, if they have any, way outside of our standard of care, or the cellars are baking pies and they got the fans in the kitchen, it's just not something that's part of our job. If the complaint is, or the concern is, maybe the cellar's hiding something. Well, if we go into the visual inspection with the assumption that the cellar may be hiding something, then we got to do this. We got to look for trapdoors and secret passageways and all kinds of things. Real estate, here's what would you go with? Real estate licensees conduct a limited visual inspection of the subject property while trying to find anything the seller is hiding. That's just not part of it. It just isn't. If sellers want to hide something, I saw this at Home Depot. You can go to Home. I tried it. You can get this thing that you spray on what would be normally a water stain, and you can't even tell it was ever there. So they can hide it if they want to. We just do a limited visual inspection of subject property without getting involved in special disclosures about too many fragrant candles or whatever. So anyway, I will leave it there. And Bruce, I will email you the notes in just a few minutes. And if if nobody liked this, then you don't have to contact me again. But if anybody did, then I can, in a few months, I can come back and just cover all new material for several times during the year if you want me to.
No, I thought your presentation was great, Bob. I learned a lot.
Okay, great. Okay, that says a lot because with your age, I mean, you've been around. No, I'm kidding. So anyway, okay, I'll say goodbye and then I'll get the notes off to you right away. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay, bye-bye.